Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going. Good morning.
Good morning.
It could be a quick record, quick hit pause, hit all the things while you navigate a child who wants to just be on your lap.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And even saying lap time is for later just doesn't comprehend, does it?
We were resorting to bribery.
Oh dear. So, highs and lows. Shall I start?
Yeah. Go for it.
Sure. So, I think one of the biggest highs for me is recording episodes for season 2 of my other podcast, Stories with a Sunday Roast. So those conversations are amazing. I always get very fulfilled with those. I've had a couple of people who've had a schedule clash and had to sort of pull out or didn't show up or those sort of things. So that's, I guess, my low in that I will now need to seek out some other guests, and I've been reaching out over the last few days. It's a process of cat herding, and it takes time, unfortunately. And I'm sure I'll find some great guests out there. It's just a bit frustrating. It didn't quite go to plan. There will be time, I'm sure, later. So it's all good.
Oh, the joys of podcasting with interviewees, guests.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're so lucky that we can do this with screaming toddlers in the background.
Yeah.
What about you, highs and lows?
Highs and lows. Let's see. I think the low is the bribery part right now, and really starting to get him to listen. And
we're doing the tiny chase.
And the clashing between my husband and I of how we parent, and that, like,
yes,
neither of us are able to get him to follow our directions, and that's where the bribery comes in. So, oh, you're so silly. That just navigating that is just the hard right now. So, I guess summertime is the issue of that's just more prevalent than during the school year where he's occupied doing school stuff. So, it's just the season. We're getting through it. It's all good. Our high, I think, with bike riding. I'm obsessed with how much he loves it, and the fact that he's only been riding his bike. It's going to be a week today as we're recording this. That he got on his bike and started riding it without training wheels. So it's so exciting to see how much he's grown in going from wanting not to go on his specific bike and wanting a whole brand new bike to now trying to do papa wheelies at the skate park and actually getting his front.
Oh my gosh.
It is so cool to watch. I'm so impressed by him, and I'm like, how did you get to be so cool? Because it's not from me.
Yeah, we're going through resistance to the bike at the moment because we went from a balance bike, which he absolutely loved, and it got taken everywhere, and he was on it constantly, and I think it broke in half after one too many trips down a rocky mountain. And so then he got upgraded to a bike with training wheels, and that was not the same. And now the training wheels have come off and he just doesn't want a bar of it.
Yeah, we tried to do that with the training wheels because he didn't like to topple over and try to balance with them. So he ended up trying someone else's bike that had no training wheels. And then he was like, I
Uh-huh.
that bike. And I'm like, how about we just try your bike without training wheels?
It's never the same though, is it?
It wasn't, but it finally became like, okay, I can do this. But he does still try to ride it like his balance bike. Like he doesn't know how to use the brakes. So,
Hmm.
like, just go backwards. Stop taking your feet off and sliding them on the ground. Now I have to go buy new shoes.
Yes, that too. We had my 9-year-old try to plank on his bike last week because he saw it on a cartoon or a internet meme or something with one of his friends who showed him. And so he decided that he was going to plank on his bike and then crashed into a tree, broke both of his brakes, and has had a swollen thumb and a very sore chest where he tried to plank.
Oh, that's
Amazing. And if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Alex.
Trying new things out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yes, an interesting thing. So, I'm sure that in many ways you are looking at Declan's current bike riding and current need to be on your lap right now.
Oh my gosh.
And today the episode title is that we had in mind was Pat on the Back Self-Care. And I know we both had different interpretations when we were brainstorming and doing up the list of what that means. And then we didn't get to write notes about what we thought at the time. So it's a little bit of a... Yeah. I don't know. Should we admit that out loud? I'm not sure.
I mean, isn't that motherhood? And entrepreneurship? Isn't that what mucked up self-care is all about? Winging it?
Yes.
And I feel like it really relates to even what we are trying to talk about with being, a pat on the back. Like, it can go both of our ways as we were brainstorming it too. So let's dive in and see how this goes.
So your interpretation of what pat on the back self-care means.
So there's a mess on the floor. Great. We'll clean it up when I'm done, okay?
Oh, I don't think that.
Well, I think it relates to this, but we've talked a lot, not lately, but over this last year about how our journey has come from very surface type of self-care to more deep, meaningful self-care. And I feel like a pat on the back for self-care is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I got some self-care done today. That was just surface stuff, things that we might have been told on something that could be self-care, those cliche types of self-care that we hear about everywhere, and that we just got it done. And it's just like, yep, okay, we did it. Pat on the back. Good job. Move on. And is it really that deep, meaningful stuff? Because we've just recently talked about celebrating our self-care. And I feel like the pat on the back is just a little bit less than that big celebration, in my opinion. So that's where my thoughts were going on our topic today, Linda.
Interesting, because something that came to mind when you were talking about that sort of pat on the back, almost feels a little bit demoralizing or patronizing in a way to have just, oh yeah, okay, well done, good girl. Yeah. Like I puts me in this position of feeling like I'm a bit of a child wanting approval, like wanting someone to say, hey, good job, you've got some self-care, like, which then starts to externalize, I think, self-care into this place of, if we're feeling like we constantly need a pat on the back each time we do some self-care, does that then start to strip away our motivation and our desires, our needs and values, and
Is it really filling our cup then? Is it doing what self-care is supposed to do when it becomes just that,
doing
okay,
it because,
yeah,
are we doing it because we just feel like we have to, or feel
right.
like someone's watching us or grading us, or like all of those things? But then on the flip side to that, I almost wanted to also add that patting someone else on the back for doing some self-care or a good job, or just putting themselves into the self-care space, is not a bad thing either. I think we still can celebrate each other
Definitely.
and that sort of thing. Like, I feel like the pat on the back is almost not enough, or something that we shouldn't depend on or expect. That's all.
Yeah. So I guess it comes down to being perspective of that pat on the back. Is it us giving ourselves a pat on the back saying, okay, well, we did it? Or
Yep.
is us giving someone else that recognition? Well, you did it. Like, congratulations. I'm like, you deserve that pat on the back. Like, you did it.
Mhm. Mm.
So I think that's where we can find that shift in, does it go to just surface or is it more meaningful, is when we're applying it to ourselves or to someone else. So I like your point also then, because we do want to, I mean, that's where we come a lot of times, is for that validation from
Yeah,
other people
sure.
in our community, in our village, and where we should be patting each other on the back for getting some kind of self-care done.
Mhm.
And in that case, it's beautiful to receive that.
Mm. Do you find it easier to pat other people on the back or pat yourself on the back?
I find it easier to pat others on the back.
Mhm. Same.
And I also think it comes down to our awareness of it. And are we having the conversations about self-care? Because we've talked about that in past episodes also. Like, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna use my neighbor for example. She's currently in the midst of pregnancy with her second child, and she's constantly like, I didn't get enough done, or you know how we all feel about not doing enough, but we realize that we are growing a human inside of us during this time, that it's okay that we rest. Like, trying to be more aware of that for her and be like, but you did something today. You also rested. Like, you're doing a lot. And she does the same for me, vice versa. And I'm not in that season of having a second child. So it's like, how wonderful is it to have people in a village doing that for each other? Because when she mentions those things to me, that I've done some amazing things, if she can't believe it, it's like, oh, I guess I have. And it helps us realize the things that we are doing. And then we feel better about it. Because we can feel down about maybe we didn't get self-care in, and not realizing that we did some self-care. Because I don't know about you, Linda, but sometimes I don't realize a lot of the things that I do are self-care for me until someone points it out.
I know. I know that about you and about me and about all the things in the middle. Like, just looking at it through that lens of, are we searching for a pat on the back? And is that the only reason why we're doing self-care? I think it's important for me to connect within community. I know that's a really high value. We're going to talk about more of that. I think those values and things that come up, because it's probably a little bit of a blurry line, I guess, if you're seeking to connect with others. There is more than just the pat on the back that we're talking about in your way of connecting to others. And it's great for us to say that in theory, we shouldn't need a pat on the back or shouldn't desire or anything like that. But we're also human, and it also doesn't hurt to know that about ourselves and realize that, hey, sometimes I actually would really appreciate someone just saying, hey, well done. Like, hey, you got through today. You got through that tiny baby step. You got through that, especially if you're really down or in a really depressed way, or postpartum, full-blown postpartum, or just tired, just exhausted. It can be really uplifting to just have someone say, hey, awesome, pat on the back.
Yeah. I think it helps build our confidence in what we do and recognizing that the things that I guess in the seasons that we're in, it's okay to do what we've managed to do. And it gives us the confidence to do it more freely instead of feeling so afraid that it may not be okay, that we've maybe taken a nap, or maybe that we opted to go do some self-care instead of doing the work we needed to do, or that we took the afternoon off to be with our kids instead of getting some work done. So, yeah.
There's a BBC phrase or definition here. I know we often go to definitions in these moments just to help put some words together. And it says to pat yourself on the back is a figurative expression, meaning to congratulate yourself for something. If you feel you've achieved something you're proud of, you can pat yourself on the back. You don't have to do it literally, though. Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting concept, I guess, because we are congratulating ourselves on achieving something for us, for our self-care, for becoming better humans.
And it's not selfish to do that. Selfish at all to recognize ourselves and that we are taking care of ourselves. Celebrating us. Like, we should be encouraged to do that and to do that for others. So I'm glad that we've picked this apart so we can come down to that conclusion.
Yeah. Even if you've got your hands completely full and you can't actually pat yourself on the back at all anyway. We encourage that it might be a good idea to at least do it. For both for yourself and for other people as well. As always, we would also love to hear from you about how you are going with your self-care. If you have any questions, we'd love to know that you are listening along, and good to hear from listeners on the other side of the podcast, of course, as well. So we're going to put all of our details into the show notes. The email address is muckedupmyselfcarepodcast@gmail.com. Yep, I got it out. I was like, and yeah, I think it's a self-care idea when we're coming to talk about what we might be able to do to practice and put into place patting ourselves on the back is, I think, I'd like to add, I think we only shared it recently, but just journaling a little bit and writing down your wins for the day as well.
It's a great way to recognize our successes. Pat ourselves on the back is by sharing our highs and lows, and journaling that is definitely a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah. So,
or if you want to share it out loud, by all means, send it in an email with some more comments of your own. So
exactly.
Start a conversation about even sharing the pat on the back in email.
So, Jill, until next week.
I hope you can unstuck your life.
Bye for now.